It's November 11th, 1890. The pioneer column has just marched into Mashonaland in a makeshift fort of tents and wagons known as Fort Victoria. A man named H.R. Venil picks up his pen. By the dim light of a lantern, he begins writing what would become Zimbabwe's very first newspaper.
The Nugget was produced in manuscript form. Its editor, Venel, declares his mission simply to be the first in the field of journalism in the country.
Its motto, root hog or bust. Translation, push forward or die trying. And that spirit would define Zimbabwe's press for more than a century to come, because while politics, power, and protest would rise and fall, the press in Zimbabwe would remain constant.
This is the untold story of the newspapers of Rhodesia and Zimbabwe, a journey from a single handwritten sheet in the bush to one of Africa's earliest and most influential media industries. Zimbabwe had one of the very first newspaper industries in Africa, a bold experiment that began in dusty forts, barely 2 months after the occupation of Mashonaland. This was the spark, and from that spark, a media landscape would evolve almost overnight. By July 1891, at Fort Tuli, the main entry point into the territory, there was already another publication, the Tuli Times, a handwritten and cyclo-styled news sheet. But the true forerunner to the modern press would rise in Salisbury.
In June 1891, William Ernest Fairbridge launched the Mashonaland and Zambesian Times, a weekly paper described as crude but readable that ran for 62 weeks, circulating about 180 copies. It carried news of mining ventures, weather, shipments, and rumors.
Then on October 29th, 1892, everything changed.
For the first time, Salisbury got a real printing press, and with it came the Rhodesia Herald, a printed newspaper that replaced the Mashonaland and Zambesian Times. Published by the South African Argus Group, it marked the beginning of corporate media in the region.
And what few could imagine was that the Rhodesia Herald would survive. Through wars, revolutions, and rebirth to become the Herald, Zimbabwe's oldest and largest circulation daily, still printing 133 years later.
Following this, the appetite for news was now insatiable. More newspapers were now circulating. The Chronicle launched in Bulawayo in 1894, a pillar of the press that still stands today. It was followed by a wave of others, the Umtali Advertiser, the Matabele Times and Mining Journal, and Gwelo's Northern Optimist. In less than a decade, journalism had evolved from campfire scribbles to a full-blown industrial print industry, from a single pen and page to a nation discovering its voice. Today, the press includes publications in indigenous languages, community bulletins, and digital platforms where every citizen can be both the journalist and the story. What began as a handwritten page in a tent at Fort Victoria has become a digital conversation spanning the entire nation.
If you enjoyed uncovering this piece of history, don't forget to subscribe for more.
See you in the next video.